With a strong performance on the road versus the Oregon Ducks in Week 13 of college football, USC star quarterback Jayden Maiava can prove he's a first-round pick.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everyday. This is week 13 during the college football season. We have to preview the action, guys. We're going to talk about those offensive statement makers, defensive statement makers, and then the sleepers that you need to be looking out for and the prospects you need to watch during this weekend slate of college football games. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Statement makers, Keith. I want to go to a quarterback. We talked about, you highlighted him earlier in the week. I think it was a stock rising performer for you early this week, and that's Jayden Maiava. USC has a big game against Oregon. The biggest game of the season for them, right? And they're in that playoff contention right now, and they're trying to hold steady and hold the line and get themselves in the CFP. A win against Oregon would absolutely do that, Keith, if they're able to knock Oregon off. And I want to make sure if this game is
at Oregon.
Oh, yeah, it's at Oregon. So right now, Oregon's ranked 7th in the country and USC's ranked 15th. So they're right outside the top 12. A win like this on the road could potentially knock Oregon completely out of the CFP altogether. They won't be in the Big Ten championship game because that would have been 2 Big Ten losses. They lost at home to Indiana. And you lose at home to USC, you're probably not getting into the CFP at all with those 2 losses in your house. For Jayden Maiava, this is a guy who's played. He's got over 30 games. I think 31 games under his belt in college that he's played in. I think he has over 20 starts. So he's on that threshold of games played and games started. And we talked about it. This is a guy that if he finished this season out strong, why not go to the league and not have to come back next year and try to battle with the Arch Mannings, the potential Dante Moores, the Lenore Sellers after he goes to Miami.
Sam
Levitt, who's also like his campus pitching out to other to big time programs, trying to get that transfer portal, right? Listen, I'm just saying, guys, if the Lane train leaves Ole Miss, I wouldn't be shocked if Sam Levitt leaves at Arizona State and joins Lane Kiffin wherever he goes, whether it's Florida or LSU or whatever. But yes, like for Jayden Maiava, man, I think with him and that connection with Makai Lemon, we talked about the fact you had Jacoby Lane in your mock draft that we broke down yesterday, Keith. Like, this is a big time opportunity for this young man to go out here and just continue to make a name for himself. And I feel like I think people think he's like a sophomore and he's not draft eligible. No, he's absolutely draft eligible. And I think this is a guy that if he plays well down this stretch, he might decide to hit the NFL draft and go be a first round pick.
Yeah, no, I like that call out, DP, because it's probably, honestly, looking at the schedule, it's a lot of FBS on FCS situations going on, right?
Yeah,
this
ton
week.
Of
them. But looking at it, maybe the biggest game of the entire weekend. So you're talking about all eyes on you, right? You got that 2:30 Central Time slot. Everybody be active watching this football game. This is how you get your name in that conversation. But I'm gonna go on the other side, DP, and talk about Dante Moore, right? And because of all the reasons you say why Jayden Maiava, why this can mean so much to him. For Dante Moore, I think it's equal, right? I think right now he has it, meaning that he has the first round conversation, the first round buzz, but a performance that's not up to par, could he potentially lose it, right? And I think that's the thing that you have to look at, right? Because this would be your second loss at home, because Indiana came in there and beat y'all, right? So you're talking about a second loss at home, potentially what I'm more than sure the Big Ten implications of, you be out of for that, right? Because you got Ohio State and Indiana have the tiebreaker over y'all. But then now you're talking about that log jam for slots 8 through 12, right? And you put yourself in position. Now do you put yourself in position to where you don't even make the playoffs? So I think with Dante Moore, it can be that they had I'm trying to think of their big wins at Penn State, right, early on in the year, where he didn't play great, right? I think it was his first big-time game on the road as a starter. But now you have this situation where you have USC coming to town, and I think that they're going to have to score points. I look at Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, and those guys, and I think they'll be able to do enough, right, with Jayden Maiava that I think Dante Moore is going to have to play a pretty good football game overall, clean, efficient, and I'm looking for no turnovers, DP. That's one thing not to turn the football over, hit all your passes, be accurate, things like that. So Dante Moore definitely is a guy that needs to make a statement, because a lot of people like him as a first-round prospect, but because he is so young with limited data points, the big games mean even more.
Absolutely, 100%, Keith. And I'll go to another quarterback. I mentioned him earlier this week too. I said he was a stock follower for me, and that's Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati. Like you got to get back. You got BYU coming into your house, it's a night game, prime time situation. Can you rebound? Like we need to see you rebound, Brendan. Like because this is a toolsy guy, man. Like he's got arm talent. He can make all the fun pro day type throws. You talking about off platform stuff and whatnot, but he's got to be able to play better than he has so far this season. And again, like with all the talent and physical tools he has, you want to see him play kind of. I want to see him just play kind of point guardish, like not put too much on yourself. Get the ball to your weapons. Be smart with the football and everything. Like you're a talented dude. You're a talented guy. And your career started off slow, and then you found your footing and you found your way to make an impact for your draft stock. If you want it, because I think this is the draft class, truthfully, if you want to be a high second round pick, or if you want to be a hey, I snuck myself in the back of the round one, this is the draft, Keith. This is the quarterback class to do it. And for him right now, 21 touchdowns to 4 interceptions on the season. He's hit a rough patch. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns as well. So he knows how to put the ball in the paint against a BYU defense that is trying to rebound after I think they lost to, Texas Tech and everything. Yeah, you're at home. Nighttime, primetime game. Show the world what you can do. Show the scouts and the GMs. Because, Keith, we all know it's at least one GM that says, it's like that it's like that situation where the girl feels like, or person, I'll say just individual in dating. You're like, man, got a lot of red flags, but I can fix you. You know what I mean? It's always that one GM, Keith, that be like, man, he's raw, but we got a plan for him.
Yeah, I could coach that out of him. I could
coach that out of him. We can do it. We can do it. And I think you want to prove to that GM that you're the toolsy quarterback in a class that might have a Taylor Green in it, right? That 6'6", big arm, mobile guy. You want to be the other toolsy guy to say, you know what? I'm the guy you take an earlier gamble on. Take me in round one. Don't take a guy like that. Trust me, I can develop into what you need to be. Big time opportunity for him. Can he protect his house? Can he revive his draft stock right now after 2 subpar games?
Yeah, no, I like that. And I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, DP, with Duke quarterback Darian Mensah. If this was basketball, this would probably be a primetime game, right? But this is football, right? Duke is playing North Carolina. In North Carolina, the Fighting Bill Belichick's, they're not that good, right? But the reason I'm highlighting Darian Mensah is because, DP, I think I jinxed him, right? And I want to talk about him again so I can unjinx him. Since I said that he hasn't thrown an interception, right? That was 2 weeks ago when it came off the Clemson win where he threw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. Against UConn, he threw 2 interceptions. And then last week, he threw 1 touchdown, no interceptions with 51% completion percentage. So I'm doing this to unjinx my guy, right? Because he's playing really good football. And listen, it's North Carolina. Everybody been lighting him up. you go ahead and light them up too and put your, because try to get to that 30 touchdown threshold, right? That's really impressive. You finish off the regular season with 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, right? That's really doggone impressive. So I want to mention Darian Mensah real quick. But DP, you know what we do, man. We show love to both sides of the football. We talked offensive statement makers. Let's talk defensive statement makers, man. Which guys on the defensive side of the football need to make some plays? Let's get into that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds. I mean, less than a minute to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere that PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and even Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineup after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Defensive statement makers and defensive prospects to watch in Week 13 of college football. Keith, I go to that Arkansas versus Texas game, right? I expect we didn't even mention Arch, but I expect Arch to light them up like it's New Year's. I just expect nothing but fireworks for that darn defense. But I go to Texas's defense, and that's Anthony Hill Jr. coming off a good game against Georgia. He ended up picking off Gunnar Stockton, which was like picture perfect zone drop, picked him off, used that full frame that he has. I expect him to, I need to see him kind of work as like wear all the hats this week. You got Taylor Green coming in. Taylor Green has came off the game against LSU with two interceptions, are one of his worst games of the season. He's going to be looking and kind of probably pressing to fix and reshift the narrative around his name right now. And like Brendan Sorsby, revive his draft stock after such a hot and strong start. For Anthony Hill, we know you're athletic. We know that you can move and you have the size and everything else. Like, can you spy this young man? And not just spy him, but heck, I do want to see him rush the pass a little bit, blitz him, force him to make sped up quick reads and get the ball out of his hand quicker than he wants to, right? And I think Anthony Hill could be the guy that tries to neutralize the rushing ability, especially on third downs. When it's third and long, 3rd and 7 or plus, look for Taylor Green to try and scramble out of the pocket and use his legs, right? Sometimes he gets in the habit of not trusting his weapons. And I understand those guys don't separate all the time. So he gets in that habit. If he is not there, he's getting out of the pocket. Anthony Hill Jr. needs to be right there to meet him on the perimeter so he doesn't get galloping, open up that long stride, and now he's 15 yards down the field and convert the big third down. Big game for me for Anthony Hill Jr.
Yeah, I like the DP, and it was good to see him show, right? Just a guy that, he had top 10 conversations around him entering the season, right? That we didn't believe that, but, that's what he had around him. I'm going to go with this Missouri edge rusher, Zion Young. And I had him in my mock draft this past year, this past week. And I told you, he reminds me a lot of former first-round pick Darius Robinson, just these big 6'5", 270-pound defensive ends just to go and make some plays. Oklahoma offense has not been this powerhouse, 35 guaranteed points a game. Go make some plays. Go be disruptive on the defensive side of the football. And I looked at Missouri's record, DP. They have yet, and I don't know if these teams were ranked when they played them and beat them, but looking at their schedule, they have yet to beat a team that's ranked. All of their ranked opponents got teams that's ranked right now. Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M, they lost. Now, albeit they lost to Bama by 3 points, they lost to Vanderbilt by a touchdown, right? So I'm looking at it, and they play Oklahoma this week, and Oklahoma's ranked number 8. And we know the log jam that the back end, like I keep saying, that 9 through 12 slot, especially with automatically having to insert the the group of five champion, it's going to be teams jockeying for position. You're going to need a big time win. You're going to need a resume type of win to even give yourself or put yourself in consideration, because I think people are going to look at strength of schedule and Missouri's going to be in trouble. So listen, Zion Young, I go be dominant. Go be dominant for yourself and go be dominant for your team's sake.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, Oklahoma's offense looks far different than they did the first 3 or 4 weeks before John Matayo got hurt. I felt like as a passer, he's lost, not, I don't want to say like he's lost his confidence, but he's not as confident as he was to start the season.
No, he's not.
Ever since that hand injury, and as much as he tries to reassure people that hey, the hand is fine, brother, I just don't believe you because you don't look the same as a passer. So, but what he is doing is still running the football. He's still a power runner. He's still scrambling and making plays with his legs. And Zion Young, when he decides to want to get out of the pocket, break, contain, you need to be right there to corral him for that sack, put him in a 4 or 5 yard loss, and put them in 3rd and longs to where you can just pin your ears back and you know it's a true drop back situation. Keith, I go to another edge rusher, and we talked about it earlier, Jayden Maiava's game in USC, Oregon. Matayo Uiagalelei, like Matayo has a big opportunity in this game to disrupt everything about this USC's offense. He only has 4 sacks on the season, but he's got 19 pressures, 5 hits on the quarterback, 6'5", 272 pounds. He's more athletic for his size than people believe. I look at him and I say this. I want to see him be able to go out here and really give Jayden Maiava issues in terms of just dropping back, feeling comfortable in the pocket. I want him to hit him early. Let's see how he responds to that. Does he start to hear your footsteps for the next 3 quarters after you hit him early in the first? Stuff like that. But USC will run the ball too. So play, of course, setting the hard edge, doing the things you need to do to make sure their run game doesn't pop and create explosive plays. The secondary that they have is good, and I think especially with Dylan Thieneman in that back end and the way that they're using them, watch out for that matchup of him potentially like roaming around the areas of Makai Lemon, as that kind of maybe cover one hole and everything like that. Like he works down and he's the robber trying to take away those crossers and things like that from the slot. But the only way you're going to be able to help Dylan out is if you can speed up Jayden Maiava and Matayo Uiagalelei, that's going to be your job, is to get in the backfield, speed him up, but also play contain, because don't get it twisted, 6'4", 225, that is Jayden Maiava. He's also athletic, so he will get out of the pocket, use his legs. But he's an athletic passer. Like he doesn't want to run for 100. He wants to throw for 400. So you see him get out of the pocket. His eyes are still downfield because he's looking for somebody to throw to. If you cover everybody and don't account for him, he'll run. But Matayo, you can't let him get around you and get outside, because then you put your secondary in a vulnerable spot, because, hey, that shallow or that underneath corner has to make the decision. Do I leave my man and leave my receiver and go and stop Jayden from running for 15, or do I stick to my receiver and Jayden gets 15 or 20 and they get a big play on the ground with the legs of the quarterback?
Yeah, I'm a DP. I look at it from this perspective. You went with the edge rusher. I'm gonna go with the safety, Dylan Thieneman. I believe that's how I pronounce it, right? And this is another young man. Obviously, we had a lot of draft hype, right? Like he was in the back in the first rounds of some people mocks. I know some people have 2nd, 3rd round grades on him. I think this is going to be a big game for him because people haven't really been able to watch him in depth, right? And I think the other thing too is that, and I know for me with defensive backs, especially safeties, right, I'm gonna look at ball production. And I believe his first year, 2023, he had 6 interceptions. Last year he had no interceptions in 2024, and this year he has 1 interception, right? So people are gonna want to see you make plays, right? Like, why are you a first round? And if you look at some of the safeties that went in the first round in past years, is because of ball production, right? Like you look at the Kyle Hamiltons and Malachi Starks win in the first round. Guys like that, they get their hands on the football. So I'm going to be looking at Dylan. And one thing I'll say, it should be interesting. I thought he was, and I'm not saying this in a bad way neither, just as maybe the way he plays, right, in his body profile. I just thought he was bigger than that. I thought he was like 6'3", 210. And then I pulled up his actual kind of height weight measurements, and I think he's like 6'205". But I'm going to be looking for him to be active in the run game, because this is definitely a guy that doesn't mind running the alley at all.
Yeah, no, that's the running the alley, tackling in space, and like I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, hovering around Makai. Like force Jayden. Matayo, get after Jayden. Dylan, force him away, force Jayden away from Makai. Make him throw to the other weapons in this offense. And I think they have like a freshman corner at Oregon who's like 6'3" or something like that. Throw him on an island with Jacoby because he's one of the only guys that can match him in the size profile standpoint.
Yeah.
Let him go to the island with Jacoby. Let Dylan come and roam around and try to take those crossers and quick throws that you get to a Makai Lemon. Play press man, challenge Makai, and if your nickel does get beat, he knows, hey, I got Dylan hovering and roaming around. He's going to be my backup, if they try to get over the top of us. So it's going to be a big game for that secondary and that defensive line. I think it's like Amari Washington, the defensive tackle, Bear Alexander. Those guys need to step up and get pressure. That trio and Matayo, I don't want to blitz Jayden. I want to rush with 4 and get in the backfield. I want to dominate the trenches. Games are lost and won in the trenches. Can Oregon dominate that USC offensive line? If so, that should make it an easier game for them defensively to walk out with a win.
Yep. Well, DP, let's do this, man. We've talked offensive playmakers. We talked defensive statement makers. Let's get into this, man. The guys that will fly under the radar, but expect them to make plays for this upcoming weekend of college football. We're talking 2026 NFL draft prospects. Talk about that coming up next.
The NFL is in midseason and in full swing, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans and cheering on your favorite team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. And that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before I bought my tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Download Game Time today. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. It wouldn't be possible without you. It's time to talk about those sleepers. The alarm clock is going off. You hear it. It's ringing. It's buzzing. It's because we got some prospects that you need to watch. Keith, this guy felt like a big-time riser early in the season after the torch in Georgia and everything else. Tennessee wide receiver Chris Brazzell, man, the 6 foot, I think 6'5", 200-pound, just deep threat wide receiver with ball skills and top end speed. The past couple games since week 8 against Alabama, he was 6 of 7 for 55 yards. Against Kentucky, 4 of 7, 138 yards and a touchdown. Against Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, 6 of 9, 68 yards, 0 touchdowns. New Mexico State, 3 of 4, 65 yards. He averaged almost 22 yards per catch, but 0 touchdowns. On the season, he has 51 receptions, 862 yards receiving, 17 yards per catch, and 8 receiving touchdowns. I want to see him get back in the column of scoring touchdowns and creating those big explosive plays. Like, this is one of the best deep ball threats in college football, and they got a tough matchup. They're going on the road at night against that tough, physical Florida defense, right? And we've seen that defense hold receivers, under 100 yards.
Even offenses, they make it a tough out, right?
They do. That defensive line, the linebackers, the secondary, everybody plays as one. And if you could disrupt the quarterback, Joey Aguilar, you're going to have to make the plays. You know what I mean? And this is a defense that makes those tight window. You have to make some tight window throws against them as well, and you got to make some throws under pressure. So for Chris Brazzell, I want to see Joey get back to feeding the beast. Get back to feeding. You got 6'5", 200 pounds over there. I get it. Mike Matthews is a 5-star recruit, talented, young receiver, but the guy that can really change the game for you, it's simple. Flipping field position. You could be at your 20-yard line, and one deep ball could put you inside their 30. And that's Chris Brazzell and what he brings to the table. Get the deep ball going back to him.
Yeah, DP, I'll even say this, working the deep ball, but work the intermediate with him too. There was one game I was watching because I was just checking him out earlier this week. And I think it was against Georgia. And he had a nice little, I don't know if it was a speed out or what it was supposed to convert to, but against the defensive back. And I was like, wait, this big boy, and you're talking about like as far as height, 6'4", 6'5", he can sink his hips some. So I think he's a guy that can work the intermediate portions too. So it's, in my opinion, DP, it can be a volume thing, right? And the way Tennessee offense is structured, which is getting them basically stay at the bottom of the numbers, right? They're so far out there that give them the space, right? Or put them in a slot and let him work and do some things because he has the speed to push vertical, but he can also snap it off some, especially for a big boy. I'm going to go with some defensive guys, DP. I'm going to go with one. Michigan is playing Maryland. So I'm going to go with Derek Moore, the edge rusher from Michigan, a young man that I like, DP. He's a fringe second-round grade for me, just as far as being one of those hybrid kind of edge rushers that fit the prototype stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. I like him. He's sitting at 8.5 sacks. I think this is his most production that he's had throughout his collegiate career is because he's been sitting behind some other talented guys. Now he's finally playing a lot, right? And then I'm going to go with this. Rayshawn Benny, who I think has the opportunity to be one of the better defensive tackles in this entire draft class. Both of those guys going against Maryland, go put out some dominant performances, right? Both of y'all can still be high draft picks. I know Michigan doesn't appear that they're going to be a quote-unquote playoff team, right? They have the big-time matchup with Ohio State, last weekend of the season. So we'll see how that goes. But, man, go put on a dominant performance for Derek Moore, get to that double-digit sack, season, and then Rayshawn Benny, go ahead and be dominant. So that's the two guys I'm looking at.
I like that, Keith. I'm gonna go to Houston and to their tight end, Tanner Kozial, 6'7", 250 pounds. Let's say 240, 250 pounds on the season, 56 receptions, 570 through the air, 5 receiving touchdowns. And this is a guy that's going to be more of a receiving threat, like the Jake Brenning-Stools from last year. Those type of guys. Was it Jarrett Wiley out of TCU a couple years ago? Not much of a blocker, but man, like he's especially in the red zone, he's a matchup weapon because he has great hands, body control. He goes up and attacks the ball at the highest point. But in between the 20s, he's a good guy in terms of the short to intermediate as a route runner. He's not going to give you a ton after the catch. He's not a really dynamic mover. But for him in this tight end class, it's Kenyon Sadiq and Michael Trigg, like Max Clare.
It's been tough because the talented tight ends, DP, when you talk about Ohio State, what they have, Max Clare, and then you got injuries at Texas. Like they don't get the football. And even Michigan has a guy who's a dominant blocker. But they don't get the football. Georgia, right? Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky sitting there.
I don't know what's going on, but we are not giving the tight ends the rock this year, and it's quite frustrating to see what this draft class is becoming and everything. We might see all these tight ends in Mobile and at the Shrine Bowl, trying to make a name for themselves. It's like, well, our quarterbacks weren't allowed to throw us the ball. Can y'all please throw us the football so we can show you what we could do? But I think Tanner Kozial, not as a true tight end one opportunity for him, but Takavaroa is a tight end too. And if you want to go 11 personnel, maybe he's the guy lined up off the line, zone blocker, things like that, where he doesn't have to overpower someone. It's more so creating that screen, that pick and roll for the running back and just being a body in the way. But his pass catching ability is there. Like I said, short to intermediate, he can move the chains. And then in the red zone, man, I think with him at 6'7", if you're a team that runs the ball, you get the play action game going. Another name I think, like in terms of a comp, think about Charlie Kolar is a better blocker than he is, but Charlie Kolar.
If you could look at my laptop, I was literally trying to figure. I was trying to remember which school Charlie Kolar went to, but that was literally the name that I was about to pull up. And I did it more for a role, right? Like Charlie Kolar will never be the tight end one for the Baltimore Ravens, right? But they respect him enough to put him on the field, and then he's in the mix, and he'll make a timely catcher too.
Yeah.
And that sounds like what you're describing from this Houston tight end.
Absolutely, man. And then Keith, I got one other guy over at San Jose State. They're playing San Diego State, and that's he's a slot receiver, one of the better slot receivers in the country. I think it's Danny Scudero. I think he's 5'9", 174. He's a redshirt sophomore. And he is absolutely having a great season statistically. The young man is balling. He's got speed. I'm gonna tell you what he is, Keith. He is what Andy Isabella should have been. You know what I mean? Like, this young man can run routes. He's got games, like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 6 games over 100 yards. He has a 215-yard game against Hawaii this year for San Jose State. Young man has over 1,100 yards receiving. He averages over 16 yards per catch and 10 receiving touchdowns. Danny Scudero, guys, get your eyes on him with the Spartans. Young man has he's twitchy, separates well. He's tough. And I hate to do it, but he reminds me of those the Edelmans, the Amendolas, the Welkers, those just tough slot receivers that Tom Brady absolutely turned into stars. Like, he's one of those type of receivers, man. And he's not going to be for everybody at 5'9", 174. But again, teams want to go ahead and upgrade their slot role with a guy that's got speed and route running. Daniel Scudero, keep your eyes on him.
Keep your eyes on him with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.